My divorce settlement came through with the ping of a notification on my phone. $1 million. A nice, round number to commemorate 3 years of a marriage that was about as real as a $3 bill. The final payment has been transferred, Ethan. We're square. Claire Sterling's voice on the other end of the line was as cold and sterile as the boardroom she conquered. No emotion, just a transaction completed. Pleasure doing business with you, I said, my voice lazy, and hung up before she could. I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 3 years. The invisible shackles I'd worn in our Park Avenue penthouse dissolved with the dial tone. 3 years ago, I was a broke film school grad with a mountain of medical debt from my dad's cancer treatment. Claire Sterling, the youngest and most ruthless CEO in New York, needed a husband to placate the old guard on her company's board and solidify her inheritance. I needed the money. It was a match made in corporate heaven. We signed the papers, threw a wedding that graced the cover of magazines, and then retreated to our separate bedrooms. For 3 years, we were roommates who occasionally played a loving couple at charity galas. She had an empire to run. I had a life of quiet desperation to maintain. Now, her power was absolute, and I had enough cash to disappear forever. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of our apartment, looking down at the glittering veins of the city. Every light was a person, hustling, striving, grinding. I was just tired. The next day, I packed one suitcase, got on an Amtrak train heading north, and didn't look back. My destination was Maple Creek, Vermont, a town as rustic as its name, nestled in mountains that bled green. My family's old house was at the end of a dirt road, leaning against a hill with a creek babbling nearby. It had been empty for years. Ivy crawled over the stone walls, and when I pushed open the creaky wooden door, the air smelled of dust and sunlight. I spent a week airing the place out, hauling rotten furniture to the curb, and installing the fastest satellite internet I could get. My new life, my real life, had begun. I slept until the sun told me to get up. I'd chill a watermelon in the ice-cold spring water out back, and spend afternoons in a lounge chair in the yard, listening to the birds and the wind. The town gossips were endlessly curious about the city slicker who'd suddenly returned. Ethan, honey, what brings you back from the big city? Heard you married a rich girl. Where's she at? My standard reply was a folksy shrug. We split. City life's too much pressure. It's better here. And just like that, the entire town knew the story. The Hayes boy, the one who'd made it out, had been chewed up and spit out by some heartless city heiress. He was back home, licking his wounds. The sympathy came in waves, often accompanied by casseroles and cartons of farm-fresh eggs. I didn't have the heart to tell them I was celebrating. One afternoon, on my way back from a failed fishing attempt, I heard a faint whining from near the old covered bridge. Tucked into a pile of autumn leaves was a tiny, filthy ball of fur. A puppy, maybe a few months old, with a coat the color of cheap mustard. One ear flopped down, the other stood at attention. Its dark, intelligent eyes were full of fear. It looked at me, a pathetic whimper caught in its throat. For some reason, it threw me back 3 years to the first time I saw Claire Sterling in her father's mansion. She was surrounded by her predatory relatives, a pack of old money sharks circling their next meal. She was terrified. I could see it, but she'd masked it with an icy glare, building a fortress around herself with just her eyes. I sighed, dumped the one trout I'd caught, and scooped the puppy into my bucket. Back home, a bath revealed a handsome little mutt. She was scruffy, sure, but her features were sharp, her eyes startlingly expressive. I scratched her chin, and she closed her eyes, melting into my touch. All right, you're with me now. You need a name. I mused. Buddy? Mux. Too basic. Then a brilliantly terrible idea sparked in my mind. To commemorate my dead, plastic marriage, I announced to the puppy with mock solemnity, "Your name is now Claire." The little dog, as if she understood, let out a happy bark. My quiet, unplugged life now had a co-star. And Claire the dog, it turned out, was a diva. She rarely barked, but her side-eye game was devastating. When I cooked, she'd sit at the kitchen doorway, head cocked, with a look that clearly said, "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" When I sunbathed in the yard, she'd flop at my feet with an air of profound disappointment, as if sighing, "Look at you, wasting your potential." If I came home from the creek with an empty bucket, she'd stare at it and let out a long, mournful sigh that dripped with condescension. Her theatrical personality was too good not to share. I minored in film, and editing videos was second nature. On a whim, I shot and cut a little clip on my phone. It started with a first-person shot of me holding a fork with a juicy piece of steak on it. The camera pans down to Claire, sitting expectantly by the table. I wiggle the steak in front of her nose. "Want a bite, Claire?" She doesn't whine or jump. She just slowly lifts her gaze to meet mine. Her look is a perfect cocktail of 3 parts pity, 3 parts scorn, and 4 parts utter indifference. It's a look that says, "Is that the best you can do?" Pathetic. Then, she elegantly turns her head, presenting me with her backside in a clear gesture of dismissal. I added a simple caption, "The ultimate rejection." For the punchline, I dramatically popped the steak into my own mouth with a "so good" sound effect. I created a TikTok account, calling it the Unplugged Guy and His CEO Dog. I posted it and forgot about it. The next morning, my phone was buzzing like an angry hornet. I opened TikTok and was greeted by a screen of 999 plus notifications. The video had exploded. 1 million likes overnight. Tens of thousands of comments. The comment section was a goldmine. OMG, that dog is my boss in canine form. That's the exact look I get when I ask for a day off. That's not a dog. That's a Fortune 500 CEO who just rejected your merger proposal. Man, you have successfully captured my attention by annoying me. More. I need to see more of the CEO dog's corporate takeover of your life. Someone crowdfund a tiny throne for this queen. She has earned it. I was stunned. I looked over at Claire, who was currently asleep in her bed, paws twitching in some dream, and I had to laugh. This ridiculous, life-changing windfall was being delivered by a stray dog. I decided to lean into it. The next video showed me foraging for wild mushrooms in the woods, with Claire trotting behind me like a supervisor, a tiny wicker basket strapped to her back. While I was sweating bullets, she found a shady spot on a rock, fanning herself with a paw, her expression clearly urging me to pick up the pace. That one went even more viral. Not only does she micromanage your meals, she supervises your work. This is the greatest dog on the internet. I have a theory. This dog is the reincarnation of the guy's ex-wife. How else do you explain that look? My hand trembled when I read that comment. Dude, you have no idea. My account blew past 3 million followers in a week. Claire was a bona fide internet celebrity. My daily routine shifted from fishing and gardening to filming my dog and editing videos. My income went from zero to staring giddily at the thousands of dollars in tips and ad revenue rolling in every day. This wasn't just unplugging. This was winning the lottery while napping. I was already planning to build a new house with an in-ground pool, just for Claire. I was so wrapped up in my new life that I had no idea a storm was brewing a few hundred miles south in New York City. In the top floor office of Sterling Industries, Claire Sterling was staring, her face a mask of cold fury, at an iPad held by her trembling assistant, Emily. On the screen was my latest video. In it, Claire the dog was wearing a little bandana I'd made, standing on her hind legs with her paws on a toy cash register, looking like a skeptical shop owner. The title was, "Telling My Dog We Went Over Budget on Treats This Month." Claire's expression was a perfect blend of suspicion and accusation, as if she was about to demand a full audit. The comments were flying. That's the same look my wife gives me when she checks the credit card statement. LOL, this dog definitely has a degree in accounting. Is it just me, or does this dog's name sound a little familiar? Replying to it user 789, you're not the only one. The CEO of Sterling Industries is named Claire Sterling. Holy crap. Watson, you've cracked the case. This creator has guts, naming his dog that. Is he not afraid of getting a cease and desist letter from the real Claire? Or could it be that the creator is the famous CEO's ex-husband who she paid to disappear? Emily could feel the temperature in the room drop 20 degrees. Ms. Sterling, she began timidly. The account has over 5 million followers now, and, well, our competitors have started buying bot farms to amplify the connection between the dog and you. Claire didn't speak. She just stared at the dog on the screen. The eyes, the haughty posture, that look that suggested the entire world owed her an apology. The more she watched, the more a horrifying sense of recognition dawned on her. That was her face. That was the face she made in board meetings. A volcanic eruption of shame and rage churned in her gut. Ethan Hayes. She ground his name between her teeth. That man. The man who took her $1 million, who agreed to vanish from her life forever. How dare he? How dare he move to some backwoods town, adopt a mutt, name it Claire, and turn her into a viral laughingstock for the entire world to see? What is our PR department doing? Claire's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. I want that account gone. Now. Ma'am, we've tried. Emily was close to tears. We filed complaints, but the platform said the content isn't defamatory and the name is a coincidence. We tried to DM the creator, but he has them turned off. Then find him. Claire slammed her hand on the desk and shot to her feet. Find out where Ethan Hayes is. I'm going to see him myself. She felt like her lungs were on fire. In 3 years of ruthless corporate warfare, she had never once lost her composure like this. But now, all her legendary calm and control had just been obliterated by a scruffy mutt from Vermont named Claire. I, of course, knew none of this. I was busy upgrading Claire's dinner. She was a star now. She deserved the best. I had a friend from the city ship me a case of premium, grain-free dog food, which I mixed with fresh-cooked ground beef and carrots. Mayor Thompson, the town's chief gossip, ambled over to my porch, watching me serve Claire like she was a queen. Ethan, my boy, that dog of yours has really made it big. Heard she's more famous than most movie stars now. She's a natural, I said with a humble shrug. Well, you'd better watch your back, he said, lowering his voice. Word is, that rich ex-wife of yours is coming to find you. My stomach dropped. Who told you that? Patty down at the general store. Her daughter works in the city, saw it all online. Said your ex saw the videos of the dog, and she is madder than a wet hen. Coming here to settle the score. A wave of anxiety washed over me. But, no, the Claire I knew was a machine. A creature of pure logic who despised inefficiency and anything that wasted her time. Drive 5 hours into the middle of nowhere over a dog. No way. It had to be a rumor. The next afternoon, a black Bentley that looked like it had taken a very wrong turn off of 5th Avenue rolled to a stop in front of my house. The door opened, and a long, perfectly tailored leg emerged, followed by the rest of her. The Ice Queen face I had spent 3 years trying to forget. Claire Sterling. She wore a designer power suit and 7-inch heels, her brow furrowed in disgust as she surveyed my muddy yard. I was wearing cut-off shorts and flip-flops, crouched on the ground scrubbing out Claire's food bowl. Our eyes met. The air crackled. I could practically see the flames dancing in her eyes. I slowly stood up, wiped my hands on my shorts, and forced a smile. Well, look what the cat dragged in. She ignored my greeting. Her gaze shot past me, locking onto the mustard-colored dog who was now sitting at my feet, head cocked, observing the newcomer with intense curiosity. Ethan, she said, her voice so cold it could have made it snow. What is the meaning of this? The meaning of what? I asked, playing dumb. That dog, she snapped, pointing. Why is it named that? Oh, you mean Claire? I said, feigning realization. I just thought it was a pretty name. Did you trademark it? You. She was so angry her chest was heaving. You know exactly. I know exactly what. I cut her off. Ms. Sterling, we're divorced. The settlement is paid. We're square. I move home. I get a dog. I give it a name. Last I checked, you don't get a say in any of that. My defiance seemed to short-circuit her brain. She took a deep, steadying breath. Name your price, she said, the words squeezed from between her clenched teeth. I'm buying the dog. I laughed out loud. So predictable. The CEO's solution to every problem. Throw money at it until it goes away. I knelt and scratched Claire's head. She nuzzled my hand contentedly. Sorry, Ms. Sterling, I said, looking up at her. Claire is my family. She's not for sale. At any price. Her face turned a shade of pale I'd never seen before. She was not a woman who was used to hearing the word no. Just then, Claire the dog, who'd been quiet until now, stood up and let out a sharp, authoritative bark. It was a clear warning. The sudden noise startled the real Claire. She took a step back. One of her heels sank deep into the mud, and she stumbled, nearly face-planting in my yard. Her assistant, Emily, who had materialized from the car, lunged forward and caught her just in time. The moment was so exquisitely awkward, I had to bite my cheek to keep from howling with laughter. Careful now, I said, offering some friendly advice. Country roads can be treacherous. Maybe you should head back. Claire Sterling, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar empire, stood there, clinging to her assistant, her face flushed crimson with a mixture of rage and humiliation. She shot a venomous glare at me, then at the dog who was still growling softly, and finally snarled, "Ethan Hayes, you just wait." Then she scrambled back into Bentley. The luxury car roared to life, kicking up a cloud of dust as it sped away. I watched it disappear down the road, my smile slowly fading. Yeah, this was definitely going to be a problem. Claire's first assault ended in a tactical retreat, but I knew she wasn't done. Sure enough, the next day, the delivery truck pulled up. A man in a crisp suit, looking wildly out of place, got out and handed me a business card. Leo Vance, special assistant to the CEO, Sterling Industries. Aimetan. What's up? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. Mr. Hayes, Ms. Sterling was concerned about your rustic living conditions, Leo said with a practiced smile. She's taken the liberty of sending a few items to improve your quality of life. I looked past him. Workers were unloading a massive, stainless steel, double-door refrigerator, a top-of-the-line washer-dryer set, an 85-inch flat-screen TV, and a collection of fancy kitchen gadgets I didn't even recognize. My eye twitched. Was this the carrot after the stick? Thanks, but no thanks. I can't accept these, I said flatly. Please don't misunderstand, Leo said, adjusting his glasses. Ms. Sterling isn't asking for anything in return. She simply hopes that you might reconsider giving your bait a new name. There it was. All this for a name. The name stays, I said, my tone final, and you can take all this back. I don't have room for it. Leo's smile froze. He clearly hadn't anticipated this. Mr. Hayes, are you sure? This is over $20,000 worth of appliances. It's a simple name change. I said no. I was losing my patience. Now if you don't leave, I'm going to let the dog out. As if on cue, Claire darted out from behind me, barking ferociously at the delivery crew, planting her feet as if ready for a fight. Leo went pale and stumbled backward. Okay, we're going. The mountain of expensive gifts was loaded back onto the truck. As he left, Leo gave me a look that said he thought I was the stupidest man on earth. I thought that would be the end of it, but on the third day, Mayor Thompson came running, out of breath. Ethan, it's bad. Your ex-wife is trying to buy the whole town. I choked on my coffee. What? It's true, he said, sweating. A team of investors from Sterling Industries is here. They want to develop Maple Creek into some kind of luxury eco-resort. They're in a meeting with the town council right now. My head spun. Holy hell. When threats and bribes failed, she went for the nuclear option. Buy the entire town, make herself my landlord, and evict me. The woman's mind was a terrifyingly brilliant and despotic place. I stormed over to the town hall. The meeting room was packed. Claire sat at the head of the table, looking every bit the commander-in-chief, as one of her people presented a slideshow. I threw the door open. All eyes turned to me. A flicker of triumph crossed Claire's face. Ethan, perfect timing, the mayor said, jumping up. This is Ms. Sterling. She's planning to invest $50 million to turn our town into a resort. It's a miracle. I ignored him and walked right up to Claire. That's a hell of a budget, Ms. Sterling, I said, a cold smile on my face. Is that what a dog's name is worth to you these days? $50 million. She took a delicate sip of her coffee. Don't be ridiculous, Mr. Hayes, she said coolly. I'm a businesswoman. I see potential in Maple Creek. As for you, if you cooperate, I'm prepared to make your house the centerpiece of the resort. We locked eyes, a silent war being waged across the table. She was showing me she had 1,000 ways to win. I started to laugh. Claire, do you really think money can buy everything? It can buy most things, she retorted. Well, I'm sorry to inform you, I said, holding my hands up in surrender, that my dog and I happen to be in the most things minority. I turned to the stunned town council. This is my family's land. I don't approve of any development. You can all have a nice day. I walked out, leaving a room full of chaos behind me. I knew I had just made an enemy of every single person in Maple Creek. I didn't care. It was the principle of the thing. My refusal put a temporary halt on Claire's grand plans. The looks I got from my neighbors changed from pity to resentment. I was the man who stood in the way of progress and prosperity. I didn't mind. I just kept to myself. But Claire wasn't one to give up. She didn't send any more people or make any more grand announcements. Instead, she moved in. She rented out the entire second floor of the town's only bed and breakfast and turned it into her command center. And so, a bizarre new reality settled over Maple Creek. Every morning, as farmers headed to their fields, they'd see the impeccably dressed CEO from the city, clicking along the dirt paths in her heels, inspecting the town. It didn't take long to figure out her strategy. She launched a charm offensive. She bought a new big-screen TV for the community center. She paid a crew to fix the leaky roof on the church. She donated a dozen new computers to the elementary school. She never mentioned the resort. She just helped. And slowly, the town's attitude toward her shifted from awe to adoration. Soon, everyone in town was on Team Claire. Ethan, that Ms. Sterling is a saint. I can't believe you let a woman like that go. Such a nice girl. So generous. You should go apologize to her, son. Win her back. The pressure was mounting. She was isolating me, trying to use the entire town to make me bend. I still held my ground. One day, I was walking Claire on a trail in the hills behind my house when I ran right into her. She'd swapped the heels and suit for sneakers and yoga pants. She looked younger, less intimidating. Ethan, she said, stopping in front of me. Ms. Sterling. I nodded, trying to walk around her. How long are you going to keep this up? She asked, blocking my path. Keep what up? Are you so determined to fight me on this? There was a note of genuine exhaustion in her voice. Is changing a name really that hard? Yes, I said, looking her straight in the eye. It is. Claire, do you think everything and everyone is just a pawn in your game? You needed a husband, so you signed a contract. Contract's up, you write a check. Now a dog's name offends you, so you try to buy it, bribe me, and then buy the whole damn town to get your way. I took a breath. You never once stopped to ask what other people want. To you, everything is a transaction to be managed. But you're wrong. I gestured to the mountains around us, then down to the dog at my feet. This life, these feelings, you can't put a price tag on them. Claire's my family. Her name. It represents a part of my past. Good or bad, it happened. It's part of my story, and I don't want to erase it. She was silent, just standing there as the wind blew through her hair, her expression unreadable. And then everything went wrong. A rabbit shot out of the brush. Claire's instincts took over. With a sharp bark, she bolted after it. Clyde, no, come back. I yelled, but she was gone, chasing the rabbit toward a notoriously steep, rocky slope at the edge of the woods. My blood ran cold. I sprinted after her. Claire, the human one, hesitated for a second, then followed me. We reached the edge of the slope just in time to see nothing. But from below, we could hear a pained, whimpering cry. Claire! I was frantic, ready to scramble down the treacherous incline. It was a nearly vertical drop, full of loose rocks and thorny bushes. Don't! Claire grabbed my arm, her hand surprisingly strong. It's too dangerous. I'll call for help. There's no time. I shook her off, my eyes scanning for a foothold. Her cries were getting weaker. Just as I was about to risk it, Claire did something that completely stunned me. She kicked off her expensive sneakers, and barefoot, she moved to the edge of the cliff. I'm lighter than you. Lower center of gravity. I'll go, she said, her voice firm, her eyes locked on mine with a resolve I'd never seen before. You wait here. Be ready to pull me up. I was speechless. Before I could protest, she had grabbed onto a thick vine and was carefully, clumsily, making her way down. The rocks and thorns immediately tore at her skin, drawing blood, but she didn't make a sound. She just bit her lip and kept going. Watching her, this woman I'd only ever known as a cold, calculating machine, risked her life for my dog. My heart felt like it was doing gymnastics in my chest. A few eternal minutes later, she reached the bottom. She found my Claire, pinned between two rocks, her leg bleeding. Gently, Claire lifted the dog into her arms and began the grueling climb back up. I was holding my breath the entire time. When she finally reached the top and placed the injured puppy in my arms, she was covered in dirt, scratches, and blood, completely exhausted. The vet, she gasped. Get her to the vet in town. Now. I looked from the whimpering dog in my arms to the battered, heroic woman in front of me, and for the first time in 3 years, I had absolutely no idea what to say. Claire the dog had a broken leg. She needed surgery. I paced nervously outside the operating room at the small-town vet clinic. The other Claire, after getting her own cuts and scrapes patched up by the town doctor, came and sat on the bench across from me. The silence was thick with unspoken things. "Thank you," I said, finally breaking it. "Don't," she replied quietly. "If I hadn't cornered you up there, this never would have happened." "It was an accident. Not your fault," I said. The surgery was a success. My Claire was now the proud owner of a bright blue cast, a tiny, one-legged pirate. I carried her home and made her a comfortable bed by the fireplace. Claire followed me inside. She stood by the door, watching me fuss over the dog. "Ethan," she said suddenly, "I've made a decision." "About what?" "The Maple Creek development project. I'm canceling it." I looked at her surprised. "Why?" "Because of what you said today," she said, her gaze steady. "Maybe you're right. Not everything can be bought." She gave a small, self-deprecating smile. "I thought I could control everything, and I ended up nearly getting a dog killed. I seem to have made a mess of things." For the first time, I saw a crack in the armor. The invincible So looked fragile. "I'm going back to New York tomorrow," she said. "I don't think I'll be bothering you again." She turned to leave. "Wait," I called out. She stopped. "Stay for dinner. As a thank you. For what you did today." She seemed surprised by the invitation, but after a moment's hesitation, she nodded. It was the first meal I ever cooked for her. Simple stuff, roasted chicken, potatoes, a salad from my garden. She ate slowly, quietly. Afterward, I walked her back to the inn. The moon was bright, and the air was filled with the sound of crickets. "What will you do now?" she asked. Same old, I shrugged. "Film my videos, take care of my dog, grow my vegetables." The unplugged guy and his CEO dog. She murmured my account name, a faint smile playing on her lips. "The videos are good. Claire's the real talent." She stopped walking and turned to me. "Her name, was it really just because it sounds nice?" I hesitated. "Yes and no," I admitted. "When we first split, I was annoyed. It started as a stupid joke. And now, I looked up at the moon. Now, she's just Claire, my family." When we reached the inn, she turned to me. "Etan, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For the way I was during our marriage. And for all of this." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I hope you have a happy life." She disappeared inside. I stood there for a long time, an unnameable feeling stirring in my chest. The next morning, the Bentley was gone. She had really left. Life returned to a new kind of normal. I documented Claire's recovery, and my videos shifted from CEO Dog to the One-Leg Wonders Road to recovery. The internet sent an outpouring of love and support. But the house felt empty. The yard felt too quiet. I started to think that maybe my solitary, unplugged life wasn't as perfect as I'd thought. Just as I was getting used to the peace, a hurricane hit. A notorious gossip site published a massive expose with a headline designed to shatter the internet. Exclusive: the ugly truth behind CEO Claire Sterling and her ex-husband's twisted revenge plot. The real story of the famous TikTok dog. The article laid it all out. Our contract marriage, the $1 million payoff, and my cruel revenge of naming a dog after my ex. But then it twisted the truth into a grotesque lie. It claimed that Claire had come to Vermont to beg me to come back, that she'd offered me billions, and that in a fit of rage during an argument, I had purposefully thrown the dog down the cliff. It painted her as a heartbroken victim who had bravely rescued the animal I had tried to kill. The article included paparazzi shots. Someone must have been hiding in the woods, of Claire covered in blood and dirt, looking like a victim, and of me holding the injured dog with a cold, emotionless expression on my face. The internet turned on me with terrifying speed. The same people who had called me a hero for standing up to a billionaire were now calling me a monster. What a scumbag. He took the money and still found a way to torture her. My heart breaks for Claire Sterling. She deserves so much better. He hurt the dog. This man is a psychopath. Cancel the unplugged guy. Get this animal abuser off the internet. My comments and DMs were a toxic sewer of death threats and hate. My follower count plummeted. I knew who was behind it. A corporate rival of Claire's, a man named Vance, had been fanning the flames from the beginning. This was his kill shot, meant to ruin both of us. Sterling Industries stock was in free fall. My quiet life was over. This started with me, and I had to be the one to end it. For the first time since our divorce, I called her. She sounded exhausted when she answered. "It's me," I said. "I saw the news." "I know. What are you going to do?" There was a long pause. "PR is handling it, but it's not working. The narrative is too strong." "I have an idea," I said, "but I need you to do it with me." "What is it?" "A live stream," I said, the words tasting like a massive gamble. "You, me, and the dog. Together." She was silent for a full minute. "Okay," was all she said. We set the date. 3 days later, 8 p.m. For 3 days, the internet frenzy grew, fueled by Vance's money. By the time the night of the stream arrived, everyone in the country, it seemed, was waiting to watch us burn. I set up my phone on a tripod in my yard. Claire the dog, cast and all, lay at my feet. At 8 o'clock sharp, I went live. The viewer count shot into the millions in seconds. The chat was a waterfall of hate. "Look at this loser, trying to save face. Where's Claire Sterling? Did you lock her in the basement?" I ignored it all. "Hi, everyone. I'm Ethan," I said calmly. "I know you all have a lot of questions. I'm here to answer them." Just then, the gate to my yard opened. The other Claire walked in. She wasn't wearing a power suit, just a simple white dress, her face free of makeup. She walked over, sat down next to me, and began to gently stroke the dog's head. Claire the dog didn't flinch. She leaned into the touch. The nonstop scroll of angry comments paused for a beat. First, Claire said, her voice clear and strong, "Our marriage. The stories are true. It was a business arrangement. It ended. We both got what we wanted and we moved on. There were no victims." She looked at me. Second, the dog. When Ethan first named her, I was furious. I saw it as an insult. I came here determined to force him to change it. I offered him money. I threatened his home. I was wrong. He taught me that some things in this world aren't for sale. As for her injury, she continued, it was an accident. She fell. I went down to get her. The pictures you saw were of the aftermath. Ethan didn't hurt her. In fact, he's the one who pulled me to safety. The livestream chat was eerily quiet. This was not the drama they had been promised. This was the truth. Finally, Claire said, her eyes turning to steel as she looked directly into the camera, "I know who's behind this smear campaign. Mr. Vance, I know you're watching. Business is business. But using lies to attack my family and hurt an innocent animal, you should be ashamed of yourself." It was my turn. "I'm not an ambitious guy," I said. "I just wanted a quiet life. The videos were for fun. I never meant to hurt anyone." I pulled the camera in closer. "I want you all to know something. This dog is not a weapon. She's not a symbol. She's my family. Her name is Claire, and nothing is ever going to change that." I picked up the dog and held her up to the camera. She gave her signature world-weary head tilt, her dark eyes staring into the lens with that classic expression of disdain. The CEO dog was back in the building. The chat, after a few minutes of stunned silence, exploded. "Wait, so we got this all wrong. This isn't a story about a villain. This is a story about an ex-husband teaching a CEO how to be human. I am so sorry, Ethan. I was one of the haters. I get it now. Claire Sterling calling out her rival on a live stream is the most boss move I've ever seen. I'm a fan for life. Am I the only one shipping them? This has major enemies to lovers vibes." Vance is over party. The tide had turned. The next day, Vance's company's stock tanked. Sterling Industries, on the other hand, soared. Together, against all odds, we had won. Claire didn't leave right away. She stayed for another week under the guise of exploring local business opportunities. But we both knew what was happening. We weren't exes anymore. We were becoming friends. We'd walk the dog together. We'd plant vegetables in the garden. I learned that underneath the corporate armor, she was just a person who got excited about fireflies and loved the taste of fresh-picked tomatoes. She learned that I wasn't just a slacker. I knew my way around a camera, an editing suite, and even her perpetually malfunctioning laptop. "You're so talented, Ethan," she said one evening. "Why are you content to hide away here?" "Because here I feel alive," I told her. "In New York, I was just Mr. Sterling. Here, I'm just me." The day she was supposed to leave, she stood at my gate. "I'm going now," she said. "Okay. Can I come back and visit her sometime?" she asked, nodding toward the dog. "Anytime," I smiled. She smiled back, a real, genuine smile that melted the last of the ice. The Bentley drove away, But this time, my house didn't feel empty. It felt full of promise. A month later, a package arrived from New York. Inside was a custom-made leather collar. Inset in the leather was a small, glittering diamond. Attached to the collar was a silver tag, engraved with 2 lines. The first line read, "To Claire." The second read, "From Mom." I stood in my yard, holding the diamond dog collar, and just stared. What in the world was this woman planning now? I held the collar, the diamond catching the Vermont sun, and just shook my head. This one rock could probably buy my entire street. And the inscription, "From Mom," was so audacious it was almost brilliant. "Claire, come here, girl," I called. She trotted over, her tail wagging, and nudged her nose against the fancy new gift. "Well, look at you," I said, fastening the collar around her neck. "Living a better life than your old man." She seemed to preen, her scruffy mutt stature suddenly looking regal. I couldn't resist. I filmed a quick video of her parading around the yard, the diamond winking at the camera. My voiceover was deadpan. "My dog's new bling is worth more than my house." Serious question. What's the resale value on a celebrity dog? The post blew up. The top comment, with 50,000 likes, read, "This isn't a dog, it's a furry little trust fund baby. And OMG, that mom tag. You put a ring on it. She put a diamond on the dog. This is the rom-com we deserve." My phone rang. It was her. "Does a collar fit?" Claire asked, a smile evident in her voice. "It fits," I said dryly. "Are you trying to make her a target for dog nappers?" "She deserved the best," she said, then paused. "I saw your video. Are you really thinking of selling her?" "Just a joke," I said, watching the dog proudly strut around the yard. "She's my retirement plan." The line was quiet for a moment. Then her voice came back, softer. Can I come see her?" Before I could answer, I heard the familiar crunch of tires on my gravel driveway. I looked up. The black Bentley was parked at my gate. Claire got out. She was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, her hair in a simple ponytail. She looked less like a CEO and more like just Claire. "I was in the area," she said, offering a weak excuse, her eyes already locked on the dog. "Claire, come here." The dog bounded over to her, barking happily. Claire knelt, fussing over the new collar, a gentle smile lighting up her face. The afternoon sun softened the sharp edges I was so used to. And in that moment, I realized the Ice Queen had melted a long time ago. She never really left after that, claiming she was diversifying her portfolio into rural tourism. She just stayed. My mornings now started with her voice at my door. "Ethan, the dog needs her breakfast." She even tried to help in the garden. I watched, trying not to laugh, as the woman who could command a room of sharks fumbled with a trowel and ended up with more mud on her jeans than in the garden bed. "It's not funny," she'd snap, though her cheeks were pink with laughter. I posted a video titled, "My ex-CEO girlfriend tries farming." Spoiler, the vegetables are terrified. It became our most popular video yet. The comments were full of people saying, "Okay, just get married already." One night, I came down with a fever. I woke in a haze to a cool hand on my forehead. Claire was there, her hair damp from running through the rain, holding a glass of water and some pills. "You didn't post an update," she whispered, her eyes full of worry. I got scared. Looking at her, her guard completely down, a question I'd been holding back for weeks finally spilled out. "Claire, are you in love with me?" She froze, her face turning a brilliant shade of red. "Don't be ridiculous," she stammered, looking away. "I'm here for the dog." "Really?" I pressed, a grin spreading across my face. "The dog is why you've been living in a bed and breakfast for 2 months? The dog is why you ran through a thunderstorm to bring me Tylenol?" She finally looked at me, her eyes glistening. "Yes, okay. So what if I am?" she said, her voice a mix of defiance and vulnerability. "For 3 years, I had a husband, but I was completely alone. With you, I don't have to be the CEO. I could just be me. When I saw you gave the dog my name, I knew. I knew you didn't hate me as much as you pretended to." My heart did a backflip. I reached out and wiped a tear from her cheek. "You dummy," I said softly. "If I hated you, I would have named her after my lawyer." I took her hand. I thought I want to be alone. But it turns out being alone is overrated. Being with you is better. Her smile could have powered the whole state of Vermont. Just then, Claire the dog leaped onto the bed, wedging herself between us and barking twice, as if to give her official seal of approval. We looked at each other, then at the dog, and burst out laughing. A week later, our new video went live. The title was simple. The CEO dog's parents are making it official. In it, my arm was around Claire's shoulders, the dog sitting proudly between us. So, yeah, I said to the camera, we're back together, a family of 3. The internet rejoiced. Our former rival, Vance, filed for bankruptcy, and Maple Creek became a tourist destination, full of people hoping to get a selfie with the world's most famous CEO dog. 3 months later, we got married in the backyard. The whole town came. Claire wore a simple white dress and looked like an angel. The dog, wearing a tiny bow tie, served as our ring bearer. Well, Mrs. Hayes, I whispered as I slipped the ring on her finger. Welcome to the quiet life. It's not so quiet anymore, she whispered back, her eyes sparkling. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And she was right. Our life was a happy, chaotic, beautiful mess. We were the unplugged couple with the CEO dog, a weird little family in a small town in Vermont. Lying flat was great, but lying flat next to someone you love, with a happy dog snoring at your feet, that, I decided, was everything.